Mega Power explode here at WrestleMania 5. The Mega Power explode!
And what's going on, guys? This is the Club of the Man 1993 coming at you for another WrestleMania Retro Review, the fifth of this series as we review WrestleMania number 5. We're going to take a look back at everything that happened at WrestleMania 5, which took place on April 2nd, 1989, the last WrestleMania of the 80s, and it took place for the second year in a row at the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So overall, again, these first few WrestleManias, and probably most of these WrestleManias, like, don't lead up to, once again, to the teens or whatnot, nothing really terrible yet, just another average show, even though there's some skippable matches in this show, but some really good matches, and a classic, one of the all-time great WrestleMania matches at the end of this episode. Probably the best WrestleMania main event we have seen so far. The attendance was around the same as it was the year before, about 19,000, I believe it was. Was there something else I wanted to add to the background information? Not that I can really think of at the moment, but let's get right into it. We're going to start off with a match with King Haku with Bobby the Brain Heenan versus Hercules. I guess Haku took the crown from Harley Race. He defended it whenever, and then, Bobby the Brain Heenan did turn on Hercules, and it just built up to this match. Maybe Hercules trying to take the crown and whatnot. Hercules won the match. Well, I guess it wasn't for the crown, because Hercules did not take the crown. I can't remember. But the match was average. The finish, though, was weird, though, because it did look like that they did hit a double pin, and even the commentators pointed that out, but the referee didn't say anything, so Hercules gets the win. Moving right on from here. We had the first WrestleMania match by Shawn Michaels, but it was before he was a Heartbreak Kid and Mr. WrestleMania, of course. It was the Twin Towers team of Akeem and the Big Boss Man, recently put to the Hall of Fame, with Slick taking on the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. This was right before when Shawn Michaels was a tag team, that he would eventually turn on Marty Jannetty in that barbershop skit or whatever it was. The Twin Brothers did win this match, though, but it was still a good match. It was mainly, a good showing for Shawn Michaels. That's why I was invested in it, because, it was a bunch of smaller guys taking on a bunch of bigger guys. And I thought it was a decent, big guy versus smaller guy match as well. So this was a decent match. And then we move on to another match that was decent, but what kind of took me out of this was the finish, because even today, we've seen some weird WrestleMania finishes and such like that, but I don't think I've ever seen so many countouts or DQs at WrestleMania before, and I've seen these first 5 WrestleManias. I'm starting to get really sick of it, because it doesn't feel as special, especially if it's at WrestleMania. WrestleMania is supposed to be where everything just culminates. You have the final straw for everything. But that's what kind of took me out of this match. But it was Brutus the Barber Beefcake taking on the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, where this apparently was where Ted DiBiase did debut the $1 Million Championship. And then the match was going good. I thought it was a pretty good match until Virgil came out and caused a distraction, and then DiBiase and Beefcake just to brawl outside the ring until they're counted out. I think Beefcake tried getting revenge on Virgil, but didn't quite fully succeed. But the match was good, and the finish at the end, just really starting to get tired of those dull finishes. But whatever. We then had this match was just boring, not really a great match. It was a fabulous Rougeau brothers with Jimmy Hart taking on the Bushwhackers. The Bushwhackers won. I don't know. It was just really boring match, just pointless, nothing really to it. They win after, I guess they had him in a position where the Road Brothers thought they won, but then the Bushwhackers said nah, and just just stunned them and won the match. Nothing really to say. Moving on. This match, though, I enjoyed. It was Mr. Perfect, the father of Curtis Axel, taking on the Blue Blazer, who would eventually be revealed and known as Owen Hart. brother of Bret the Hitman Hart. Great match. I mean, Mr. Perfect won. Hart did not win this match, but it was a match to really introduce him, get him into start him up, using a great cruiserweight craft, and despite the loss, it's said was come to the future, especially the match that I believe took place at WrestleMania 10. I believe the opening match between him and his brother Bret the Hitman Hart. I know a lot of people keep saying that's probably the best opening match in WrestleMania. I mean, I feel if I see it, I'll probably between either that or Daniel Bryan versus Triple H at WrestleMania 30. But I'm looking forward to see that match when I get to WrestleMania 10, I believe it is, which we're halfway there. But great match, one of the better matches of the night by far. We had this the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championship match. It was still during the time of Demolition's at the time record breaking tag team run. Demolition with Axe and Smash taking on a team of three. The Powers of Pain, Barbarian, and Warlord, and their Demolition's former manager, Mr. Fuji. Fuji did turn on them, I think, at Survivor Series, causing a double turn as Demolition became the baby faces, and then Powers of Pain were the heels with Mr. Fuji as their manager, but Demolition wanted revenge on Mr. Fuji, so they inserted him into the match as well, and it was for the tag titles. But Demolition did win. I know a lot of people said this match wasn't really that great, but I mean, I thought it was pretty decent for the most part. It was all big guys pretty much in the match. I thought they put together some pretty solid chemistry as well in the match, and I thought it was a fun match to watch. Again, most of the matches I've really enjoyed these first 5 WrestleManias have been the tag matches, and this one's definitely up there too. A lot better because last WrestleMania we didn't really get that great of tag matches at WrestleMania 4, since most of the show was focused on the World Heavyweight Championship at the time, but still the non-title stuff was kind of just there. But this was a good match. I enjoyed it. And then we had this really boring match between Dino Bravo with Frenchie Martin taking on Rockin' Ronnie Garvin. The winner was Dino Bravo. He had his finisher of the side slam, which I know some people would think today, looking back in the old days, how some of these finishers are like weak, like stun moves these days, not really finishers anymore. And it just makes these moves look kind of dull. Like the DDT, well, they're finally putting back some strength into that. That used to be a really strong finisher, and then is now just a stun move. People just kick out of it a lot. Dolph Ziggler, just the famouser how many times that Billy Gunn used as a finisher, and that's not really a finisher anymore for him. It's just a super kick or a zigzag for him these days. But still, getting back off track, this match was boring. The crowd wasn't really into it at all, and they made it known that this was boring. Probably not the worst match of the night, though, I'd say, but definitely one of the worst ones. Then we had this match, the Brain Busters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, with Bobby the Brain Heenan, we haven't heard his name enough, taking on the team of Strikeforce, Rick Martel and Tito Santana. The Brain Busters won this match. The match was, again, another decent tag match, but the main story of this was, the tension continued to build up between, Rick Martel and Tito Santana. Martel was getting tired of, carrying Santana. He walked down him during the match and officially turned heel, and this was set up, the future model gimmick as well for Rick Martel, so we'll see what he does at next year's WrestleMania, at WrestleMania 6. And then we had this really, it was the first segment we really had at WrestleMania that I can recall from the first 5. It was a Piper's Pit segment, but Brother Love and Mr. Downey Jr. come out just to mock Piper's Pit, and just mocks, kilts and skirts, pretty much just mocking the whole gimmick of Rowdy Piper. It was just long and boring, and then I guess Piper finally came out, and he was just getting tired of Downey smoking in his face. So then Piper took the extinguisher and just extinguished Downey, whatnot. So I mean, that was probably the best part of it. The crowd enjoyed that, but other than that, this was kind of pointless and kind of long and boring. Didn't really get into it at all. And then we had this match that was all right. It was a match with Andre the Giant, with Bobby the Brain Heenan taking on Jake the Snake Roberts. This was at a time where, Andre just wasn't able to do as much as he could anymore. He was just starting to get a little flat. His health issues were getting to him, his weight, and his injuries and such. This feud happened because Andre interfered in the match at the end of Jake the Snake Roberts' feud with ravishing Rick Rude like back in the fall of '88, and then Roberts got his revenge by setting Damien on to Andre, who Andre is apparently afraid of snakes. That he passes out due to a heart attack. Kayfabe, though. He would eventually return, but a Big John Studd would return as well, reuniting his rivalry with Andre as well. And so, Andre still wants revenge on Jake the Snake Roberts, and Big John Studd agreed to be the referee. Another DQ finish. DiBiase interfered, distracting him while the referee until Andre was able to attack Big Studd, and also he interfered, distracting Roberts. A double DQ. The match again was okay, but again, like I said, it wasn't really. Was kind of like a little bit of like a mess a little bit at the end, especially also since Andre was starting to really tank down and not be as relevant as he used to be beforehand. We then had a solid tag match. It was, speaking of Harts, we talked about Owen Hart earlier. This is where Bret the Hitman Hart was also starting to, continue to build his way up to his main event status after turning face in the Invitational Battle Royal at WrestleMania 4 when he destroyed Bad News Brown's trophy. But this match was the Hart Foundation team of Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart taking on the Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine with Jimmy Hart, and the Hart Foundation won. Again, it was just another stepping stone for Bret Hart in his journey to the main event scene and to be the future Hall of Famer that he is today. And then we got the WWF Intercontinental Championship match. It was the Ultimate Warrior taking on Ravishing Rick Rude. This happened because it started back at the Royal Rumble, where Warrior won a superposed down challenge at the Royal Rumble, and it was decided by fan reaction. Rick Rude wasn't happy about it, so he attacked him, and this has led to them feuding, and it led to this match. And I gotta say, compared to the match that he had last year against Hercules, I believe it was, Ultimate Warrior definitely come a long way into the star that he eventually became in the Hall of Famer. He did. Rest in peace, as he passed away 2 days after being inducted, and after that amazing speech he gave on Raw the night after WrestleMania, just to pass away the next day. It was just gives you chills knowing what he said in that speech as well. But this was definitely, probably his best match, I'd say, that I've seen. Well, I've only seen 2 matches out of him so far, but this match definitely showed that he improved a lot over the past year, because his match at WrestleMania 4 was all right, but still showed that he had work to do. It wasn't really the amazing performer that he was quite yet, but he got a lot better, and then he became the Intercontinental title, and got the Intercontinental title at what was it called again? Yeah, SummerSlam, in between WrestleMania 4 and 5. So again, it came a long way. Excellent match by these two. Another one of my top matches of the night. And then we had this worthless match between Bad News Brown and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and it was a double disqualification because both of them tried using weapons. I think it was Hacksaw tried using his wooden post, and Bad News Brown tried using a chair on him. They both attacked at the same time, both disqualified, whatever. Moving on. Then we had a match. It was Terry Red Rooster Taylor taking on Bobby the Brain Heenan with the Brooklyn Brawler, because, just kind of similar in some ways to what we got at the beginning of the year with King Haku and Hercules. Taylor had Heenan as his manager, but he grew tired of, Heenan's style of managing, and he turned on him. He turned face, but Heenan was still the heel. And then Heenan would then trick him into an assault by the Brooklyn Brawler, but he wanted to get his revenge on Bobby the Brain Heenan. It was a really short squash match, only 30 seconds. Whatever, got the job done. But he was attacked afterwards by the Brooklyn Brawler, whatever. But then we get to if you want to watch this show for one reason solely, watch it for the main event. If again you don't worry about the other matches, well, except for the tag matches, the Hart Foundation, Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude, even Owen Hart and Mr. Perfect. That was a good one as well. But those were, other than that though, this is the main reason why you should watch WrestleMania 5. The WWF World Heavyweight Championship match. Hulk Hogan taking on the Macho Man, Randy Savage. This had the big story of the year. The Mega Powers did form before WrestleMania 4, and it led to Randy Savage, fully turning face and winning the WWF Championship, despite the plan carried out by Ted DiBiase after he tried to get the championship back after he bought it from Andre the Giant. this led to eventually, forming the Mega Powers with Savage and Hogan becoming friends. But then as time went on, they were in tag matches and things were going good. Savage would then get curious of, actions that between Hogan and Miss Elizabeth, and then it was a match, I believe, was it also at Survivor Series? It was against the Twin Towers, Akeem and Big Boss Man, as we talked about them earlier when they were taking on the Rockers of Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Another decent match as well too. But during the match, Miss Elizabeth got hurt, and Hogan cared for her, take her to the back to the trainer's room to get looked at, and he came back out. But then when he came back out, that's when Savage snapped, tagging in Hogan, and Hogan ended up winning the match. But Savage walked out, went back in that famous backstage segment with the, what's going on with you? I don't want you to be doing this to her or whatnot. And that's when Savage attacked Hogan, turning heel, probably one of the better heel turns in wrestling history as well. Of course, Miss Elizabeth's like the wild card in the match. She's sympathetic for both of them. Her and Hulk Hogan were friends. Of course, her and Savage are still going out. But this match, had Hogan as definitely the baby face, of course, and Savage as the heel. Savage was, just being abusive, like both verbally and physically, to Miss Elizabeth, pushing her, using her as a human shield against Hogan as well. But that's what made this match really good. This is an excellent wrestling match. It's one of Hogan's best matches as well in his career, because a lot of people say Hogan was more famous for his character and not as much as wrestling, but this is probably one of the better wrestling matches he has had. He had probably, period, I'd say. Well, it gets better probably in years to come. I know next year, I believe it was him and Warrior, I think in WrestleMania 6, but we'll check that one whenever we get there. But excellent match, definitely the best main event. Hogan did end up picking up the victory over Savage, becoming a 2-time World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion, and that's how the show ended. So that's it for WrestleMania 5. Again, it was a solid show. I mean, I know there's some matches I'm just like kind of like meh, but then again, looking back, there was a couple really good matches. I enjoyed a couple like great matches I give like B ratings, and then we had Savage and Hogan giving off a great main event. So I think I'm going to bump up my grade a little bit. I'll give this a C+. WrestleMania 5 for me gets a C+. What grade would you give it? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. And please make sure to click that like and subscribe for more content to come to this channel. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter at DemandAirboy93. And with that, guys, I am checking out. I will see you all later.